Good day, Baseball Card Collecting Nation. This is Chris from Big 3 PC, and today I will be demonstrating how I hunt for baseball cards for my personal collection. As always, you can reach me on YouTube, Insta, Twitter, Facebook, and you can always reach me by email. Okay, so when shopping around to add to your PC, I think the top priority should really include being efficient with your time and finding the best deals possible. When I started out collecting again in the summer, I was pretty brutal at both of these things, and that is why I wanted to make a video today to share the tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way to become a far more efficient buyer of baseball cards. Now, I would say that roughly speaking, right now, I'm buying 90% of my cards off of eBay, at least for my personal collection, with a small amount, about 5% each, coming from Facebook groups and online card stores. Now, I think in an ideal setting, these numbers would be heavier weighted towards Facebook groups because there's no fees or taxes associated with Facebook groups, buying off Facebook groups, and shipping tends to be cheaper because you can just find Facebook groups that sell baseball cards in your own country, and shipping is much cheaper. So I think for many people this is the way to go, but because of the type of cards that I personally collect, gem mint rookies and first autos, these are pretty rare and often pricey cards, I really have to rely on platforms like eBay to find most of the cards on my watch list. They're just not that readily available in Canada on random Facebook groups. For you though, this might not be the case, and if not, you should really be all over Facebook groups. Final thing I'll mention when I talk about where I buy my cards, when it comes to buying cards to flip and not necessarily collect, Facebook Marketplace is my joint. I mean, today's focus, as always, is going to be on the collecting side of things, but I will pay a little homage to Facebook Marketplace towards the end because it's a really great avenue for buying some cards that maybe you want to turn around and sell to help fund your collection. All right, so why eBay? Well, I already alluded to the fact that eBay has an unparalleled supply of baseball cards, and that is a huge factor in why I'm there every day, multiple times a day. But equally important, or perhaps more important, is the fact that buying off of eBay is extremely safe. They have very buyer-friendly protections in place that practically guarantee that you're either going to get the card you bought or be refunded. I mean, even if you get the card that you bought and all of a sudden you notice that the condition's bad and maybe the pictures weren't telling the whole story on the listing, you're probably getting your money back too. So it is a super safe platform to buy from. And in addition to all that, their website I think is pretty user-friendly. I mean, it has a couple of kinks, but generally speaking, things that really matter, like setting up saved searches and a watch list and bidding on items, I mean, it's all pretty darn good. The app too, which I won't be demonstrating today, but the app's pretty user-friendly for bidding, communicating with other sellers, getting notifications when stuff that you're buying is maybe running towards the end of its listing or when an auction's drawing to an end. So all in all, I think it's pretty easy for me to see why eBay is the king of the baseball card game. Okay, so once you're ready to add a card to your personal collection, the first order of business really is to figure out market value for the card you want. It's the only way you're going to know that you're getting a good price, is if you know what these cards have been selling for in the most recent history and know what fair market value is. You cannot rely on the listed price for that. Trust me, we'll go through that. So there are a few ways to determine fair market value, and for most people what they do is they go to eBay and they check the solds. So let's do that right now. We'll head over to eBay. We're going to run a search here. There's my search for a card that I bought recently. And forgot to put in the PSA 10 there. Here we go. And then we're going to see what comes up. So really important when you're searching for a card, this is basic stuff, I assume most of you know this, but you really want to be careful with the particulars you enter and make sure you nail them all. You need the year of the card, the make of the card number, the player name spelled correctly, and you want the other specifics that you're looking for. Is it a parallel? Is it graded? If so, what grade, etc. So for me, I was looking in October, towards the end of October, for a 1987 Topps Tiffany number 320 Barry Bonds PSA 10. Okay, so searched it. We can see there's two active listings right now, one for $723 and one for $831. These prices are Canadian. But what we're trying to do here is we're trying to figure out what is market value for this card. The listings are telling us that it's in the $720 to $830 range. Well, let's go see what these cards are actually selling for in the last couple of months. eBay is going to show you at least some of that information. And here you can see they have 5 listings dating back to October 17th that sold, and they give you the price for 4 of them. All right, so here we go. We're making some headway. Now, 3 limitations to pricing your cards via eBay, and we're going to go through them right now. Number 1, you're only seeing eBay solds. And while eBay is the king for card resale industry, it's not where all the sales happen, not even close. So this is only giving you a snapshot of what this card's market value is. Number 2 issue, you're only going to see sold prices for auctions and for sales that sold at listing price. So for example, this one down here, which has a strike through it, you don't know what that card sold for. The card was listed at $7.89, but the reason the price is striked is because a deal was made. An offer was made by the seller or the buyer that was below the list price, and eBay's not telling you what that price was. So in this situation now in December, it's pretty clear. Fair market value for this card is somewhere in the mid to late $500 range. But back in late October, you didn't have the benefit of those 4 sales that just happened. All you might see is that one sold for less than $7.90, and you have no idea for how much. The other limitation, of course, with eBay, you're only going to see the last 2 or 3 months of sales. So you're only getting a snapshot of the market. If it's a card that sells all the time, a common card, no big deal. If it's a more expensive rare card, it's a big deal. So for the most complete sales history possible, you're going to need to do a little extra research. Unfortunately, it isn't that much more of a deal. You just got to go over to CardSnoop. Oh, here we go, cardsnoop.com. Cardsnoop.com solves 2 of the 3 eBay issues when it comes to looking at sold and pricing your card. First of all, it lists sales from other sites, not just eBay. It's got PWCC, Auction House, Amazon, etc. And also, it seems for some reason like it includes more eBay solds than actual eBay does. The only justification or explanation I can come up with that is that some people, when they list their cards for sale, they mess up the listing. They put in the wrong year, or they spell a player's name wrong, or they get the wrong card number, or what have you. This happens all the time. And so when that card sells with the wrong or incorrect information, that sold is not going to show up when you search with the correct terms. I have a feeling that CardSnoop somehow consolidates all of those sales that happened for the same card but with different listing titles, because more eBay solds do tend to show up on CardSnoop. This is speculation on my part, but I've definitely noticed more show up on CardSnoop. So you're getting more solds typically on CardSnoop, and the second nice thing that it does is it's going to actually tell you what all the cards sold for, even the ones that sold on a best offer. So if we scroll down to the October 17th sale, we'll go back to the frame of mind I was in late October. I went to eBay, I only saw that one sold on October 17th, and I had no clue what it sold for because it just had a strike through the $7.89. CardSnoop should mention these prices are in USD, but I'll convert that quickly for everybody. So when I went to CardSnoop, I saw, well, on October 17th, that card actually sold for $540 USD, not $5.99. So that actually is about $730 Canadian. Okay, that was some good information. The most important information, though, I got from this was when I looked just 10 days earlier on October 7th, this card sold for $500 USD, which is $685 roughly Canadian. We're going to ignore the PWCC sale in the middle because that's a large auction house, and we're going to kind of explain why we might ignore a sold or auctions from companies like that in later on in the discussion. So for now, with me looking to buy in late October, I was looking at the listings, which were all $730 to $800, almost $900 at the time, and I'm now seeing on CardSnoop that actually this card was selling in the high 6s just a few weeks earlier. So for me, with that information from CardSnoop, I was able to say, you know what, the off season's coming. The World Series was just wrapping up at that time. Card prices do tend to fall a bit in the off season. None of these current listings the buyers are looking to negotiate, so I think I'll just wait. And wait I did. And nice for me and for you, if you follow the same kind of approach, is that as the off season started and prices started to drop, here's what we saw. 4 sales for this exact card for under $600. So I'm one of these. I managed to pick up one of these cards. I don't think I was the high price. I don't think I was a low price. I was somewhere in the middle. But basically, by doing a little bit more research and going over to CardSnoop, I saved myself well over $100. And that's just on this one card. So this is a strategy that I highly advocate for. So yeah, my pricing advice, very simple. Use eBay Solds and CardSnoop to determine fair market value. And track these prices, because you know that at 2 to 3 month mark, all these prices disappear. So you want to be able to track these things long term, because you might be tracking some of these cards long term. And since sales prices fluctuate so much, especially with seasonality and player performance, the longer of a sales history you have, the more informed of a buyer you are going to be. So do yourself a favor and keep a log somewhere on your watch list that you keep manually of the prices and the solds and the dates. All right, so now you know what card you want, and you've got a good idea of what its fair market value is. It's time to search the current listings, weed through them all, build a watch list on eBay, and then set up a saved search so that eBay will send you notifications when new listings arise for the cards that you want to buy. Okay, so we'll go back to our search. We're going to untoggle solds. We're going to just kind of pretend like we're starting from scratch here, searching for our Barry Bonds beautiful card. So we've punched in our search criteria, and like I mentioned, you'll notice right away that the listings are well above what we have now established to be fair market value, which today is under $600 for this card, and yet the two listings available are way above that. So the first thing I do when I do a brand new search for a card is I'm going to go into each of the available listings, and I'm going to just contact the seller direct. Okay, so you can come on down to contact seller. You're going to go to other, and you're going to go to contact seller. And you just shoot them a quick, polite message, something along the lines of, hello, I see that the last 4 solds have been in the $550 to $600 Canadian range. I'd love to make you an offer in that range if you're interested. Thank you for your time. So we'll go back. So I'll do that for all of them. And then what I'll do is I'll add that card to my watch list so I don't forget about it. Okay? Now, some sellers, they never negotiate. That's fine. Keep a bit of a list of those sellers so that you're not constantly badgering them. That's annoying for them for sure. And also it's a waste of your own time. So keep a list of those sellers and just know they don't negotiate. But some do. Some are going to hit you back straight away with a fair market value offer, and that's great. So you'll get to know them. But basically what I do is I head over to my watch list. As soon as I start getting messages back, I'm going to head over to my watch list, and I'm going to start deleting cards from my watch list as I get messages back from sellers who are not looking to deal and sell for market price. So here we've got a watch list, right? And just to delete an item, you just go right up here. Okay? Get this garbage out of here. They don't want to negotiate and sell for fair market value. That's fine. It's good on them. They want to get the best price they can get. I don't blame anybody for that. But I'm looking to make deals, so I'm going to delete that listing. Okay, so once you've done that, you've run your search, you've contacted all the sellers, and you've started to build a bit of a watch list. Here's the most important thing you can do. Go right up here to where this little heart is and save your search. This, when you trigger it, is going to enable eBay to send you an email once a day letting you know if any new listings have popped up. This means you will never have to go through this process again. For this Barry Bonds, not that hard. There's only 2 listings right now. But for a lot of other cards out there, you're going to be sifting through pages and pages of listings the first time you search for that card. You don't want to go through that again. Which listing's new, which one's not. I know you can order them, but forget about it. Just get eBay to send you a notification when a new listing comes up, and then it's easy. You quickly click on it, take a look, message the seller, boom, move on. This is a key to being efficient on eBay. It's also a key to getting the best price because the most reasonably priced listings sell the fastest, typically. So if somebody lists the new bonds for market value or even a little bit below it because they're just looking to move the card to raise some money, that listing is going to sell quick. You're going to want to be getting an email on that one ASAP when it comes out in order to get the best deal possible. Now, I would demonstrate how to save this search, but I can't because when I click it, you're going to see I've reached my max number of saved searches, which I came to find out is 96. You save 96 searches, they ain't letting you save a 97th. And that's fine. That just means that you have to be efficient with your saved searches. Every time you buy a card that's on your watch list, go and delete the saved search. So how do you do that? You come up to my eBay, you go down to saved searches, and here's all my saved searches. And let's say I just bought a nice, beautiful John Smoltz. Boom, get that out of there. Okay, now I free up room for another card that I want to buy, another search that I want to save. Okay, how do we get the best price? So come back to this. We just spent a lot of time talking about how to get market value and how to be efficient with eBay. We talked about how to carefully track new and current listings. This is so key. We talked about making offers. Make offers. See who's willing to negotiate. Some negotiate liberally, and those are the sellers you want to find. Okay? Now, one thing I don't have written on this slide, but I have to make mention of it, is you also want to try and time your purchases carefully. You want to try to time them, as mentioned, based on seasonality. The off season is typically cheaper. And you also want to try to time them with eBay Bucks promotions or eBucks promotions. Going to get into that more in a minute, but timing is very important too. Okay, when you've filtered through the listings and you've made a bunch of, you've reached out to a bunch of sellers to see who's willing to deal, and you're getting nowhere, that might be the time to wait for an auction to show up for the card, because theoretically, auctions are your best bet for paying fair market price for a card in real time. It's a real-time competition for a card. But you got to consider a few things. Firstly, the large auction houses, as I mentioned above, about PWCC and there's others, they typically have cards that sell for a bit higher than auctions run by regular Joes like you and me. Why? They have large followings, they have large email lists to advertise their auctions. So competition for their cards is significant. And in some cases, there's allegations anyways that the larger auction houses might even, some of them, I'm not naming names at all, certainly not pointing fingers at anybody, but there's a lot of discussion about this in the industry, that some of the larger auction houses might be involved in some unsavory dealings by intentionally driving auction prices higher via something called shill bidding. Shill bidding is either done directly by having a second account under your name that is bidding on the cards that you have up for auction on your other account, or indirectly by having a friend or an associate do that exact same thing through one of their accounts. So you're creating a false amount of demand for your card by putting in some false bids. They're real bids, but without the intention of ever buying the card. It's super illegal, but apparently it does happen. So just keep this in mind. Now, an additional consideration with auctions is timing. Auctions ending on Sunday evening tend to have the highest participation and thus possibly result in the highest prices. So really, a lot to think about with auctions. I mean, basically, they're a great strategy for buying market value, but only in situations where negotiations have failed, because I think that's still the best bet, where you're participating in auctions maybe from smaller to medium-sized sellers on eBay, and you're trying to target auctions that are ending at lower traffic times of the week than a Sunday night when people have time to be sitting around participating in auctions. The final advice on how to get the best price is just be patient. Be patient. New cards are posted on eBay every second, every minute, every day. Unless the pop report on the card you're targeting is super low, like if there's less than 30 or 40 gem mint versions of the card you're after, okay, you're going to want to pounce, because for all you know, the other 39 of those 40 are in a personal collection somewhere, and you're not going to see another one of these come up for ages. But for the vast majority of the cards that we're looking to buy, there's no rush. There'll be a new listing or 2 or 10 over the next couple of months for that card. Be patient. Wait for a motivated seller or an appropriate auction to line up, ideally with a nice eBucks promo or the off season, and pounce. All right, eBucks. I've alluded to this a few times, so let's discuss it quickly. What am I talking about here? eBucks is a loyalty program run by eBay that is free and easy to sign up for, but it's not super easy to master. There's a few caveats, and we're going to go over that. At baseline, once you sign up for eBucks, you will accumulate 1% bonus bucks on every dollar you spend. That baseline accumulation rate is pretty low, but every now and then, eBay will offer you an 8 to 10% bonus bucks promo, and this is when you really want to be ready to jump on those cards on your watch list. This means you buy a $100 card, you're going to get $8 to $10 in bonus bucks coupon back, and that's pretty significant savings. But those caveats that I mentioned: 1, bonus bucks promos, they're only live for like 24 to 36 hours typically. So not only do you have to agree to the sale, but you also have to pay for your purchase during that promotional time in order to earn the bonus bucks. This is key. Simply buying the card or agreeing to buy the card during the promo is not enough. You must complete the transaction by paying. And you got to do it by midnight the day that the promotion ends. So in my opinion, it's best when shopping during your eBucks promo time to get as many offers in hand as possible from sellers of the cards you want. Just tell them, look, send me your best offer, and I'll make a decision by tomorrow night. They don't need to know that it's your eBucks time. They'll probably figure that out. Get as many of those offers in your hand, and then you decide which are the best ones and which ones are you going to accept, but you will have the power. Those offers are open, they're live, they're in your inbox. You can accept them before the deadline and pay, boom, get your eBucks. On the flip side, beware if you make offers during your eBucks promo, beware not to leave them open past midnight on the last day of the promotional period. Because if the seller then accepts them after your period is ended, well, you're going to get your card, good for you, but you're not going to get your eBucks. So if eBucks is like a bit of is a part of your equation for yes, this is a good value for my card, or no, it isn't, then you want to make sure that those offers that you've sent out during your promo time don't get accepted after the promo time. All right, so we're going to go to my eBucks section for a few minutes because I want to also talk about how you spend eBucks, because there's some important information you need to know there. First of all, you accumulate eBucks over a 3-month period, at which point they are then released to you in one lump sum. The most important thing to know about this, though, is you only have 1 month to spend your eBucks. After that, they're expired. So, again, timing is everything on eBay. You need to be ready to pounce during that 1 month in order to maximize your eBucks promotion. It's another reason why having a well-maintained watch list and saved searches is so key. Okay, final thing, and this is not going to matter to most people, but you can only earn a max of $500 USD in eBucks during any 3-month period. So how do you know how much you've earned? I just showed you. You go to your account, you click on activity, you click on eBucks, and it brings you here, and it's going to show you how much you've earned. It'll even show you all the purchases you made and how many eBucks you earned on them. Okay? So there you go. That's eBucks 101 in a nutshell. People always ask, when do I get the eBucks promo? How often does it come? Nobody knows the answer to that question. It's highly variable. One thing I've noticed is that I've started spending a lot of money on eBay. I get this promo a lot. I gotta say it's probably every week or two, which is great because it's not hard to time your purchases when you're getting an offer like this every week or two. I don't know that that's the same for everybody though. And I don't for sure know that it's tied to how much you spend. That's just my theory right now. Okay, we talked about the eBucks promo. That's great. Now, terrible transition. Let's talk about fees, things that are not great. There's loads of fees in the baseball card buying and selling industry, and you got to know what they are. Otherwise, they're going to sneak up on you pretty quick. So first of all, eBay charges 10% plus sales tax on all sales, and PayPal charges you 3% plus sales tax as well. This basically means 15% total in Canada when you factor in the HST. Now, as a buyer, you do not see these fees because they're all paid by the seller. But trust me, they are baked into that price. This is why, in an ideal world, most of your purchase would be done, as mentioned, via trusted Facebook groups with sellers who agree to sell 5 to 10% below eBay sold prices, or online card stores who agree to do the same thing. Remember though, you're paying that fee to eBay and PayPal for buyer protection and supply, so it's not as bad as it seems in my opinion, and also in my experience. Facebook group members usually still want top dollar for their cards, like full eBay sold pricing, so it isn't all quite as simple as I once thought. Now, sadly, eBay fees are not the only fees you need to worry about. Here are the other ones to consider, and note they can vary in a major way. Shipping. Shipping within Canada, pretty predictable stuff. About $1.25 to send a card in a plain white envelope, about $2.50 to $3 to ship a card in a bubble mailer, and more if you're going to want to use tracking, insurance, etc. Some sellers set their shipping price higher, presumably in a bit of a sneaky way to try to get more money for their card. So look out for this and don't be afraid to ask a seller if they would consider reducing their shipping price. Now, the price to ship to Canada from the US, that is quite variable. Some sellers are very reasonable and charge like $7, $8. On the other end of the spectrum, there's sellers who use a shipping service from eBay called the Global Shipping Program, and it is egregiously expensive, usually in the $30 to $40 range. So if you're buying a $50 card, you're doubling it because of that shipping. The Global Shipping Program involves the seller shipping first to an eBay warehouse somewhere in the United States, and then from that warehouse, eBay ships to you and handles all the customs and all the rest of it. Sellers choose to do this to avoid the hassle of arranging international shipping, and unfortunately, this means that as a Canadian, you pretty much have to avoid those sellers unless you want to find your way to get a US address to ship to, which is actually quite possible. PM me if you want details on that. Okay, taxes, sales taxes. Technically speaking, all baseball card sales are probably supposed to attract sales tax. In practice, though, very few sellers actually do this, but some definitely do, and you need to read the item description and seller's information closely before buying in order to know for sure. Some people truly operate their card sales business on eBay as a business, and they have to pay sales taxes. They just got to do it. So if you don't identify this before you agree to buy, though, this tax will just show up after you commit on your invoice, and it's pretty late in the game at that point to reconsider. Customs. So obviously international orders, they're going to pass through customs when they ship. Smaller value items seem to pass through without any added expense to the buyer, but anything worth more than, I would say, $200 is definitely at risk of having duty slapped on it, and anything more than $300-400, it's more than 75% chance in my experience. Now, customs is basically applying the 13% sales tax plus a $10 handling fee, so this can add up pretty quickly. Now, attempting to avoid customs, that's pretty obviously illegal, so I'm definitely not going to discuss that. But I will say this, some US sellers are very friendly when it comes to what they write down as the official value for the card you buy. If you come across a buyer like this, take note, and then maybe consider doing more business with them in the future. The final fee to know about, and it's unavoidable, is currency exchange. This is all handled by PayPal, and needless to say, anytime you exchange currency, it hurts. But this is yet another reason why trying to find Canadian buyers to buy from, sellers rather, to buy from, is a very good idea in terms of trying to find the best value. All right, we've covered a lot here, but I do need to make sure we discuss something super important. One more thing to eBay specifically, but also to Facebook groups. Your reputation as a buyer and also as a seller is extremely important. So, what can you do to try to have a good eBay reputation? Well, and not just eBay, I shouldn't say that, Facebook too. Pay immediately. Be very courteous in your dealings. Honor your words during your negotiations. If you're texting with a guy on Facebook groups and you're saying, hey, would you take $150 for your card? I mean, that is an offer. That is essentially an offer. So honor your words. Be careful with your words because you don't want to be backtracking on things like that. It doesn't look good on you. It's not good on your reputation. On eBay specifically, when you complete a sale, leave feedback for the other person. Their reputation is dependent on feedback just as much as yours is, and people always appreciate getting feedback from the people they've dealt with. Finally, if you're going to sell, you got to be honest about the cards you're selling. If there's some flaws on there, you can probably make it so they don't show up in your pictures, but if that person gets that card and it looks any different than the pictures you've listed in your listing, you're in trouble. It's going to show up on your reputation. They might even ask eBay to get you to refund them their money or accept a return. So you can't do that stuff. You got to be honest. It's not worth the couple of extra dollars you're going to make trying to fudge something. We'll take a minute here. I'll show you what the feedback section looks like on eBay. Just click over to my profile here. So here it is. You can see this page for any seller on eBay. For me, I'm relatively new. I don't have a lot of feedback, but I have enough now that sellers can get a good sense that so far in my dealings, I'm honest and I'm a reliable buyer and seller. And that's where you want to be. Get yourself to at least, I've got 36 reviews now. I mean, you got a bunch of different people, some big sellers, some big buyers, and a bunch of little fish like myself. But it's enough that someone can look when I make them an offer and say, okay, this guy's worth dealing with because so far he's been a good kid on eBay. Okay, so other options to buy from. I've spent a ton of time talking about eBay with good reason, but a couple of quick hitters on where else I buy my cards. I mentioned Facebook Marketplace as a place to buy cards to flip. Just like with foodstuffs, people, buying locally can really be a great thing. Folks on Marketplace are often there and not on eBay or Facebook groups for a reason. They typically don't know what they have, or they're just looking to get rid of what they have, or they don't know how or have the reputation to sell on the more mainstream platforms. A lot of reasons why people are on Marketplace, but it's usually one of those. So you can, I don't want to say take advantage, but this is where you find values because of these reasons. The annoying thing about Marketplace is you have zero buyer protection. So for me, in-person deals are pretty much the only way that I would ever go. And you have to sift through reams of posts selling junk wax from the 80s and 90s. That often is way overpriced because people on Marketplace often don't have a clue what these things are worth or not worth anymore. But every once in a while, you will find a golden nugget or two and be rewarded for your troubles. And I've had many successful Facebook Marketplace buys and flips already. The lot on the left was from a garage sale. There was a lot of junk in there, but at the bottom left, you can see there's some 2014 Topps Update packs that he had opened and put the cards back into, and I managed to pull mint-looking Mookie Betts, Jake DeGrom, and George Springer rookie cards out of there. I sold the DeGrom, which paid for the whole lot, essentially, even though it was only $20. The Mookie's out getting graded because I think it's a PSA 10, and the Springer's up for sale. That was a fun garage sale. The one on the right was part of a 50,000 card lot I recently picked up. I reorganized it a bunch of ways, started piecing it off myself to different places, and I've already doubled my money, tripled my money on that one, and I got tons of cards left. This takes time. It's not for everybody, but I really enjoy going through baseball cards. So if this is something that interests you, get on Marketplace. Okay, Facebook groups. Talking Facebook, let's get to Facebook groups. I belong to a few, only in Canada, and generally speaking, I do have to say it's a little bit hard being the new guy on these groups because reputation is everything, and until you have one, let's face it, you're the new guy. But that's okay. You get on there, you start chatting with people, you make some connections, you do a few deals, and next thing you know, you're in. So the main thing to know about Facebook groups, though, is the only buyer protection available is reputation. There is no eBay protecting you. There's no PayPal giving you, protecting your money. There's nothing like that. I mean, you can use PayPal goods and services, yes, but still, there's not a lot of protection on these things. So as a buyer, you have to stomach a little bit of that risk, and you really have to rely on people in those groups vouching for each other and saying, oh, I've done a bunch of deals with person A and they're reliable. All right. Now, some pointers on Facebook groups. Most are private, and you'll have to request permission to join, which is fine. They pretty much always are going to accept you as long as your profile doesn't look crazy. But you want to stay in one, you got to know the rules and regs, and you got to follow them. They're posted, and people are really serious about them with good reason. You got to read these things, and you got to know. I mean, if you make some mistakes early and they're minor, they're going to just correct you, and it's fine. But just know there is a law. There's a rule of law in these places because there has to be, and you got to make sure you're following along. Folks who misbehave and don't follow the rules and regs, they're tossed, simply. And if you do something scammerish, you're going to end up on a scammer page. So just be very careful with how you carry yourself on Marketplace. Just be an honorable person, and it's going to be fine. That's all the scary stuff. The great stuff about Facebook groups. There's lots of fun ways to buy cards, things called razzes, breaks, fire sales, auctions, etc. And it's good community, which is important. Okay, online card stores, I've kind of mentioned a few times. What I mean by that mostly is that there's some large sellers on eBay who also maintain their own very large websites outside of eBay. And typically for me, the way I have found out about them is that when I buy off them, you get a business card kind of in the package. And then you can go see, hey, on their website, they've got a lot of similar cards for sale as they do on eBay, but lo and behold, they're 8 to 10% cheaper. So more and more I am buying off of a few of these sellers. And I think that that's a smart thing to do. Twitter and Instagram, many card collectors are very active on these forms of social media. I've never bought any off them, but I know a lot of people really do follow a lot of people on Twitter and Insta for this purpose, and I've heard a lot of positive things, so that's something to keep in mind. Two places I don't buy cards from, at least right now, card shows and my local card shop. So card shows, I went to one big one, probably the biggest one in Canada in November, and let me just say that prices at card shows seem to be a lot higher than what eBay solds would suggest market price are. Most vendors seem to be targeting the uneducated buyers who attend these things, and I don't blame them. I mean, if they want to sell their cards for market value on eBay, they would, and obviously they do. And they can do that from the comfort of their own home. But when they come to these card shows and take the time to set up and all the rest of it, they seem to want a bit of a premium for the cards they're selling. So as an educated buyer who knows market value, folks like you and I, hopefully, probably are going to leave most of these card shows without a whole lot, which is so unfortunate. Local card store is basically the same idea. One, they got to sell them for a bit more because they have expenses like a lot of overhead, rent, etc. They also have to charge sales tax for sure. And also in Canada, like local card stores don't usually have great baseball card selections. I mean, the States they do, but I also found in the States the local card shops charge a lot of money for their cards too. So I avoid card shows and local card shops for purchasing single cards. I love my local card shop for purchasing boxes, though. We've talked about that in previous videos. In summary, I stick to eBay for the majority of my purchases because it is safe, user-friendly, and has the best supply you're going to find anywhere, as far as I can tell. It is also a very useful medium for managing your affairs in a super efficient way. Timing your buys with eBucks promos and the off-season and learning how to minimize extra fees like shipping, etc. is key and can be perfected over time, or at least improved over time. In my experience, the best deals are found hands down on Facebook Marketplace, but this is more from the perspective of a flipper and not really a collector, so just keep that in mind. Finally, being the new guy or gal in a Facebook group is okay as a buyer if you can stomach making those first few relatively unprotected purchases and taking the time to be a part of the community and build up a reputation. Lots of nice values can be found in Facebook groups, so I do recommend you get into a few. And I can recommend some if you send me a PM. Okay, that's it. I hope that you enjoyed seeing my approach to hunting down cards for my personal collection today. Thank you for watching and allowing me to help you build a PC for your big three.